Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. A quiet sense of accomplishment settled over Arthur as he steered his car away from the airport, the familiar route home stretching before him. He'd managed to conclude his business 2 days ahead of schedule. A small victory he was eager to share with Eleanor, his wife. He tried calling her several times since landing, but the line had been consistently busy. She must be engrossed in something online, he thought, knowing her fondness for spending time on the computer. During the nearly 2-hour drive, he repeatedly attempted to reach her on her mobile, but each time, as he neared their town, the same busy signal greeted him. A flicker of unease began to stir within him. Then, as he passed a familiar motel just outside of town, a car parked in the lot caught his eye. It was undeniably Eleanor's sleek, silver sedan. Arthur did a double take, his heart giving a sudden heavy thud. 10 minutes later, he pulled into their driveway and pressed the button for the garage door. The space inside was empty. Eleanor's car wasn't there. He entered the house, the silence amplifying the growing knot in his stomach. He walked straight to the study, the faint glow of the computer screen illuminating the otherwise dim room. He reached out to turn it off, but a strange hesitancy stopped him. He sank into the desk chair, the screensaver displaying a slideshow of their vacation photos. With a trembling finger, he pressed a key. The screen flickered, revealing a chat room page. The words that filled the display hit him with the force of a physical blow. The conversation was explicit, raw, and it quickly became horrifyingly clear that Eleanor had been involved in a long-term affair with someone. In the most recent exchange, the other person, identified only as M.E., asked if she could meet him at their usual place for the night. Her response was a simple, devastating, yes, yes, yes. Arthur sat there, a statue carved from disbelief. His mind struggled to process the images and words on the screen. He left the computer on, the damning evidence glowing in the quiet room, and retreated to his car. He closed the garage door. The mechanical were a stark contrast to the turmoil inside him, and drove back towards the motel. Eleanor's car was still there, a silent confirmation of his worst fears. Across the street, he found a discreet parking spot where he could watch. As he waited, his hand instinctively reached for his phone. He called David, his closest friend and also his legal counsel. David's secretary informed him that he was out but would ensure his call was returned. It was then, staring at Eleanor's car, that the pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Me, Mark Evans, his best friend, his attorney. Arthur looked across the street and saw Mark's familiar dark SUV parked beside Eleanor's Miata. He sat there, wrestling with a maelstrom of emotions. Confrontation, pretend nothing had happened? The thought of Mark, privy to all his business dealings, colluding with Eleanor to take everything he had sent a cold wave of fear through him. He needed to remain calm, to think clearly. A solution, a lifeline, flashed into his mind. He grabbed his briefcase and pulled out his worn address book, his fingers finding the name he sought. He dialed the number. David, it's Arthur. How are you? Arthur. Hey, good to hear from you. Still soaking up the sun on the coast. No, I'm back home now. Well, almost. I really need your help, your advice. Can I come by to talk? Of course, Arthur. Come on over. I'll be expecting you. I'll be there in about an hour. The 50-mile drive to David's office gave Arthur ample time to grapple with the enormity of his discovery. David's receptionist greeted him warmly and informed him that he was waiting. Arthur knocked, opened the door, and stepped into the familiar, comforting space. A hug, a firm handshake, and then David led him to a pair of comfortable armchairs. So, what's on your mind, Arthur? David asked, his expression one of genuine concern. Arthur recounted everything he had found upon his unexpected return, his voice thick with emotion. He shared his fears about Mark's involvement and the potential damage he could inflict, given his intimate knowledge of Arthur's company. David listened intently, his brow furrowed, before picking up the phone beside him. Could you please see if Robert and Sarah can join us in here? He asked the receptionist. I want them to hear this too. A soft knock preceded the opening of the door. A striking woman with an air of quiet confidence entered, followed by a tall, thoughtful-looking man. They took the remaining chairs, their expressions attentive as Arthur continued his story. Sarah, the woman, took notes, her questions sharp and clarifying. Arthur explained his recent extensive travel for business, focusing on the crucial contracts he was in the process of securing to manufacture aircraft parts for a major West Coast company. The initial bid, worth over $1 million, had been successful. Then, they had approached him about a second, even more significant project. It was a perfect fit for his company, especially since they already possessed the necessary equipment. He had even discovered a mathematical error in their calculations that would make the job significantly easier, a detail he hadn't yet disclosed. This second contract was valued at a staggering $200 million, with a potential profit margin of 10% for him. His bid had been accepted, but the official announcement wouldn't be made until the following month. I absolutely don't want either of them to get a single penny of that money, Arthur said, his voice firm. Can your team handle both the legal complexities of these contracts and the divorce, and ensure she doesn't bleed me dry? David looked at him, his gaze reassuring. Arthur, you're in good hands. Robert handles all our corporate legal matters, and Sarah specializes in domestic cases. They'll have plenty of questions for you. Sarah offered a warm smile. Mr. Ashton, I believe you were due home the day after tomorrow, is that correct? Yes. I was supposed to return on Friday. Would it be possible for you to delay your return by a day or two, if necessary? No problem. I can manage that. Sarah's expression turned serious. Mr. Ashton, we can pursue a very contentious and public divorce if that's what you desire, or we can attempt to handle this more discreetly. The more evidence we can gather, the stronger our position will be. I work with an excellent private investigator. With your consent and the necessary releases, he can retrieve all the data from your computer. We might even be able to obtain video footage of her infidelity. Would that trouble you? Arthur's jaw tightened. Listen, I'm feeling utterly betrayed and furious at what they've done. Gather all the evidence you can. If they're truly in love with each other, we'll approach it one way. If it's just a casual affair, that's something else entirely. I honestly don't know which is worse. Their behavior when I do return will tell me a lot, especially if they confess before I even reveal what I know. I might consider some leniency then, but right now I'm not inclined to. Get everything you can. I want to know how long this has been going on and if Mark is the only one. Everything. Sarah nodded, her expression understanding. That makes perfect sense. Please stay in close contact. I'll call my investigator and find out his availability and what he needs from you. If we can get Eleanor out of the house for a few hours, he can accomplish a great deal. He might even be able to work remotely from his office in some aspects. We'll see. Just be aware that his services won't be inexpensive. Arthur managed a grim smile. Just do it. It'll be worth every penny. Sarah rose and left the room. Arthur couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy as he watched her go. David, who had been observing them, grinned. She's something else, isn't she? She's my ex-daughter-in-law, David explained. Caught my son cheating on her. She'll fight for you, Arthur. Robert, David, and Arthur spent the next hour discussing the corporate legal implications. Robert had some insightful ideas, but they agreed that concrete evidence from the investigator was crucial before taking any significant steps. Afterward, Robert departed, and David offered Arthur a place to stay for the night. Arthur gratefully accepted. They shared a quiet dinner at David's home, where his wife, Angel, was warm, supportive, and a genuine pleasure to be around, despite Arthur having met her only twice before. After dinner, they reminisced about their younger days when David had been Arthur's commanding officer in a Navy SEAL detachment. They had shared many intense and challenging experiences, and David had always been a fearless leader. Despite the comfortable surroundings and the familiar camaraderie, sleep eluded Arthur that night. The image of Eleanor with Mark played relentlessly in his mind, a cruel and unwelcome film. The night was long and restless. The following morning, Angel prepared a comforting breakfast. Afterward, Arthur accompanied David to his office. Sarah was already there, along with a young man named Daniel Greer, the private investigator. Arthur signed the necessary paperwork, sharing every detail he knew about Eleanor and Mark. Daniel asked Arthur to call Eleanor and inform her that he would be staying on the West Coast for a couple of extra days. The immediate goal was to ascertain Eleanor's plans for the next few hours. Arthur called Eleanor, keeping his tone casual. He told her his meetings were running longer than expected and he'd be staying a bit longer. She replied that she was heading out to play tennis, followed by lunch with friends, and then some shopping in the afternoon. "Great," Daniel said, rubbing his hands together. "Let's get to work." Sarah looked at Arthur, her expression thoughtful. "I overheard you say you loved her, but she didn't reciprocate. Did she usually say that to you?" "Yeah, she used to," Arthur replied, a pang of sadness in his voice. "I can't pinpoint exactly when she stopped. I'll be here when you guys get back, or at David's," Arthur added. "See you later." Daniel moved with focused efficiency. He strategically placed 3 small video cameras within Arthur's home, meticulously copied all the data from the computer, and discreetly planted a bug on Arthur's phone line. He also concealed a small recorder and transmitter in the dense shrubbery behind the house. Arthur then drove Daniel to Mark Evans's office building, waiting a few blocks away while Daniel, with surprising ease, managed to bug both Mark's office phone and his private office. When Daniel called him on his walkie-talkie, Arthur picked him up around the corner. "How in the world did you manage to get into his office?" Arthur asked, genuinely impressed. Daniel grinned. "Took less than a minute. I asked the secretary if Mr. Evans was in. When she said no, I acted like I didn't believe her and just walked right in. Just needed a moment inside." "What about the secretary?" "She was dialing the police as I was leaving. I just told her I'd be back tomorrow morning with my attorney." She looked confused and then said, "Wait, this is Mr. Evans's office. Mr. Cooper's office is next door." I just apologized and left. As they drove back to Sarah's office, Daniel glanced at Arthur. "Don't do anything to hurt Sarah. She's a special person." "I won't," Arthur replied, a genuine warmth for Sarah already forming. "I'm a married man, but I'll try to see her when I can." He couldn't deny the unexpected pull he felt towards her. Daniel chuckled. "Hey, anyone who sees the way you two look at each other can tell it's going to happen." Arthur shook his head, a small smile playing on his lips. "You've got to be joking. She's all business." "Listen," Daniel insisted. "She's just as interested in you as you are in her. I've known her for 5 years, and I've never seen her react to any other man the way she does to you. You're a lucky guy." They arrived back at Sarah's office, and Arthur helped Daniel carry several large cases inside. Daniel connected some cables to Sarah's computer and showed them how to operate a small control box. As he explained its functions, a small green light illuminated. He flipped a switch. The screen on Sarah's computer instantly changed from the screensaver to a live video feed from Arthur's house. The first image showed Eleanor walking through the living room. The camera then shifted to their bedroom, where she sat on the edge of the bed, kicking off her shoes. She picked up her phone and dialed a number from her speed dial. "Hi, darling," she said, her voice suddenly soft and intimate. A pause. "When did he check out?" Another pause. "He could be back in town. Do you think he suspects anything?" Pause. "Right. If he hasn't suspected anything in 3 years, he's probably not going to now. Let me try calling him on his cell and see if I can reach him. I'll call you back. Bye, sweetie." She pressed a few buttons, and Arthur's phone, which Sarah had placed on speakerphone, began to ring. Sarah held up a hand, signaling for him to let it ring. It rang twice more before she nodded. "Hello," Arthur answered, trying to keep his voice neutral. "Is that you, Arthur?" Eleanor's voice was casual. "Who were you expecting?" "George Clooney." "Yeah, he keeps calling me non-stop," Arthur replied dryly. "How are you?" "I'm fine. When can I expect you home?" "I was thinking of making reservations for a nice dinner." "Well," Arthur began, glancing at Sarah, "it looks like it'll be Friday at the earliest before I can wrap things up here." Just as he finished speaking, Sarah called out loudly from the next room, feigning a flirtatious tone. "Come on, big guy. Let's party." "Who was that?" Eleanor asked, her voice instantly sharp with suspicion. "Who are you with? Where are you?" "I'm at the plant," Arthur said calmly. "You must have overheard some of the secretaries talking. I moved to a motel to be closer to the facility. Saves me time." "What's the number at the motel? I'll call you there. I'll have to call you with it when I get back to the room. Is that okay?" "Okay." "What's that music I hear?" "Oh, it's break time. They play it over the speakers here. I'll call you later. Bye." "Bye." Eleanor hung up. They watched Eleanor on the screen for a moment as she seemed to ponder something. Then, she stood up, casually removed her blouse and jeans, followed by her bra and panties, and flopped back onto the bed, reaching for her phone again. "Hey, Mark," she said, her tone shifting back to intimacy. "He's still out on the coast. I think the old fool's actually cheating on me. He was with some bimbo who kept wanting to party." Pause. "Yeah, I'd love to catch him too. I just don't know how. When are you coming over? I'm tired of these motels. I want my own bed. I'll leave the garage door open. Just drive right in. Okay?" Pause. "Bye. I'll be waiting." She got off the bed and headed towards the bathroom. About 5 minutes later, she returned, walked to her dresser, and selected some clothes, placing them on the bed. Then, she went into the closet and emerged wearing very high heels. She posed in front of the mirror, smoothing her short hair before giving herself a final, satisfied glance. Then she walked out of view. The screen went black momentarily before returning with a view of the living room. Eleanor walked to the bar, mixed 2 drinks, and placed them on the coffee table before heading into the kitchen. They heard the faint whir of the garage door opening. She returned with a silver bowl of nuts, adding it to the coffee table. Arthur glanced around the office, his emotions a turbulent mix. Sarah looked up at him, her expression sympathetic. "She's really beautiful, isn't she?" David, who had quietly joined them, simply said, "Damn." The garage door closed, and a man walked into the living room. It was Mark. Eleanor jumped up to greet him, and they shared a long, passionate kiss. He held her at arm's length, his eyes admiring her, and then kissed her again before they sat down on the couch. Mark took a sip of his drink and leaned over to kiss her once more. Arthur walked over to the window, unable to watch any longer. He heard Mark's voice, laced with a smugness that made Arthur's blood boil. "So, you think old Arthur is shacking up out there, huh?" "It sure sounded like it," Eleanor replied, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Well, he always bragged to me about how much sex he got when he was out of town." "He did?" Mark sounded surprised. "That doesn't sound like him. I never knew him to brag about anything." "Not to you," Eleanor said dismissively. "But he sure did to me, his old buddy." Arthur turned around, his voice tight with suppressed anger. "That's not true. Never happened." Sarah walked over and gently dabbed at his eyes with a soft handkerchief, wiping away the tears he hadn't realized were falling. He rested his head on her shoulder, the dam of his emotions finally breaking. He cried, a deep, wrenching sob that shook his entire body. She held him, her hand softly patting his back. After a moment, he straightened up, taking a deep breath. "I think I've got that out of my system. Thank you truly for being there for me." Sarah smiled, her eyes filled with genuine compassion. "No problem, Arthur. My shoulder is always here for you. I think we all could use a good, stiff drink." Arthur glanced back at the screen and saw Mark carrying Eleanor towards the bedroom. He had to look away again, the image too painful to bear. David said gently, "You don't have to watch this, Arthur. Sarah needs to listen for any other things we might want to have on tape. Let's take a walk." Arthur quickly looked at the screen one last time and saw Eleanor performing oral sex on Mark. Without a word, he stepped outside, the fresh air a small comfort. Sarah came out to join them a few moments later. She gave him a small, sad smile and he returned it. "I know exactly how you feel," she said quietly. "I caught my husband in bed with my best friend. Arthur looked at her, surprised. He was crazy. Thank you, she said softly. I know it doesn't make you feel any better, but I do share your pain. Actually, it does help, Arthur replied honestly. It shows I'm not the only fool in the world. There are legions of us out there. Sex is a very powerful drive. He continued, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. I guess the therapist would say it's our fault for not satisfying their needs. I thought I gave her everything she wanted. I thought I was enough. All she had to do was ask if I didn't know what she wanted. But I guess I should have known she wasn't happy. She never once dressed for me the way she did for him. I did all that and more, and my husband still cheated on me, Sarah said quietly, her voice laced with a hint of lingering pain. You dressed like that? Arthur asked, surprised. She nodded. I sure did. I don't know if I looked that good, but I tried. I dressed however he wanted, like someone younger, like a schoolgirl, whatever his fantasy was. I wanted to fulfill every desire. I have to confess, I actually enjoyed it. I loved trying to please him. He saw a tear well up in her eye. Arthur reached for her hand, his touch gentle. It still hurts, doesn't it? Yes, it does, she said softly. Neither of us will ever forget what happened to us. Our worlds were shattered. How can you forget something like that? Arthur stopped and looked at her, still holding her hand. Slowly, he raised it to his lips and kissed it gently. Maybe we can find another kind of love to help heal the hurt. I hope so, she replied, her voice filled with a fragile hope. I believe we both still have a lot of love to give to the right person, but I'm scared of being hurt again. I know, Arthur said, looking down. It makes you feel incredibly vulnerable, but I truly believe that the right person can help heal the pain. I have to believe that, or life would feel pointless. You're right, she agreed, a quiet understanding in her eyes. I feel the same way, Arthur. I'm still looking for that kind of love. Arthur looked up, meeting her gaze. Please wait for me. I will heal and become a new man soon. I want to get to know you better. I've never felt as drawn to anyone as I am to you, not even Eleanor. He gestured vaguely towards the office. I feel the same way, Arthur, she said, her voice tender. I will wait, no matter how long it takes. He gently pulled her closer and kissed her lips softly. The moment their lips met, an unexpected surge of attraction coursed through him, taking him by surprise. He pulled away, suddenly overwhelmed by the intensity of his feelings and the complicated circumstances. He turned away from her, confused and a little ashamed of his immediate reaction. He heard her sob quietly, and she covered her face with her hands. What happened? Did I do something wrong? Do I taste bad? Arthur gently took her hands, trying to reassure her. Sweet girl, nothing is wrong with you. It's me. I didn't want to scare you. She looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. What do you mean? Baby girl, he said softly. When I kissed you, I felt something I've never felt before. An instant, powerful reaction. Caught me completely off guard, and I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable. Am I mistaken? Or is he still aroused? He gestured awkwardly downwards. Sarah's cheeks flushed slightly. Yes, he is. Arthur sighed. I can't walk right now. Let's sit on this bench. Please, don't be scared. They sat down, exchanging nervous smiles. Arthur spoke first, breaking the silence. Let's get this divorce over with. I won't kiss or touch you again until it's final. I want to be respectful of the situation. Sarah looked at him, a hint of a playful smile on her lips. Be careful what you wish for, she replied softly. If I put everything into it, this could move very quickly. Arthur met her gaze, his expression serious. Please hurry. The following day, Sarah asked Arthur to come to her office. When he arrived, she informed him that she had some additional tapes he needed to see, warning him that the content would likely be disturbing. She flipped a switch, and the screen displayed a shocking scene. Eleanor on their bed, surrounded by 4 other men, engaging in various sexual acts. Arthur immediately turned away, unable to watch. Sarah quickly switched it off. Next, she played another clip. This one showed Eleanor and Mark lying in Arthur's bed, talking. Mark was advising Eleanor to take Arthur to the cleaners, and offered to handle the divorce proceedings for a quarter of whatever she received. Eleanor mused that she was quite content with the current arrangement. She had all the free time she wanted, could sleep with whomever she pleased, and lived in a beautiful house with a new car. Seeing Arthur once or twice a month was a small price to pay. "She's got it made," Sarah said quietly, her voice filled with a mixture of disgust and pity. "She doesn't want a divorce." Arthur looked at her, his frustration evident. "I have news for her. I need to be free of that backstabbing woman. I don't want her to get a single penny. I know that might not be entirely possible, but please do whatever you can." 3 weeks later, Arthur watched a recorded meeting between Sarah and Eleanor on a monitor. Sarah had informed Eleanor that she needed to sign some important papers and that it was in her best interest to come to the office. Sarah then presented carefully selected excerpts from the video evidence. "Eleanor," Sarah began, her voice calm but firm, "you have 2 options. You can sign these papers, which will grant you half of the proceeds from the sale of the house, your car paid off in full, plus a $50,000 cash settlement as part of the divorce. The alternative is to proceed to court for a jury trial and see what you get. We currently have over 15 hours of video footage like this." She gestured towards the monitor. "I need your decision by noon tomorrow." Eleanor stood up abruptly and left the office without uttering a single word. Sarah, David, and Arthur sat in the room, a tense silence hanging in the air, waiting to see what would unfold. The first response came through the bug in Mark's office. Eleanor stormed in, her voice shrill with panic. "What am I supposed to do now?" she demanded. Mark, clearly caught off guard and terrified, stammered that he couldn't help her. He was facing disbarment proceedings for multiple ethics violations and had just been informed that he no longer represented Arthur or his company. "That's $250,000 a year down the drain," he shouted, his voice laced with self-pity. Their argument raged for nearly half an hour before Mark finally threw Eleanor out of his office, his voice cold as he declared he never wanted to see her again. Arthur looked at David and Sarah, a profound weariness settling over him. "I guess I should feel relieved, but I just feel sad. Their pain doesn't change what they did." He sighed. "I just want this to be over so I can move on with my life." Turning to David, he continued, "Find me a good-sized piece of rural property nearby, somewhere perfect for raising kids. A lot of kids. Do you know a nice woman who might be interested in raising a big family with me?" David grinned, a twinkle in his eye. "I might have someone in mind." He turned to Sarah. "What about you, Sarah? Are you available?" Sarah's grin widened. "Hell yes. Once this is finalized, I'll drag him to a preacher so fast his head will spin. I happen to love him." Arthur looked at her, a genuine smile finally breaking through his sadness. "I warn you now, Sarah. When I have to go to the West Coast on business, you're coming with me," she smirked. "I don't know," Arthur teased. "They say variety is the spice of life." A playful chill ran down his spine. "Just be clear. If you're looking for anything more than a strictly monogamous marriage, you have the wrong guy." "No, I don't have the wrong guy," she said firmly, her eyes sparkling. "I'll be your only playmate. Don't you forget that." The next morning, Eleanor arrived at Sarah's office to sign the divorce papers. Arthur wasn't present. After everything was finalized, Eleanor turned to Sarah, her expression surprisingly wistful. "Are you married? You're not wearing a ring." "No, I'm single," Sarah replied. "Let me give you a bit of advice," Eleanor said, her voice tinged with a strange mix of regret and resignation. "Grab Arthur and marry him. He was the best husband a woman could ever have. I still love him, but I need other men too. It's like I'm trapped in hell. Goodbye. And remember, don't let him slip away." That evening, Arthur took David, Angel, Robert, and Sarah out to celebrate. Sarah had promised to personally handle the final paperwork at the courthouse, and with any luck, Arthur would be officially divorced by the afternoon of the following day. After a celebratory dinner, Arthur and Sarah decided to hit a few clubs for some dancing. Everywhere they went, Men kept asking Sarah to dance, and Arthur couldn't help but feel a pang of possessiveness, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. Not wanting to appear like a jealous fool, he suggested they find a place with some country music. Unfortunately, the next club proved to be even more crowded. Sarah leaned in close, her voice just above the music. "Let's get out of here and go to your place. I'm danced out, and I think I've only danced with you 4 times tonight." "Really?" Arthur teased, a smile playing on his lips. "I'm not tired at all." "Of course not," Sarah retorted playfully. "You just sat there and watched. I noticed because I couldn't take my eyes off of you. I was worried you'd end up dancing with someone else. Then that slinky blonde grabbed you, and I couldn't stand it. Let's go." "She's looking over here again." "Really?" Arthur asked, laughing. "Where is she?" "Let's go before I have to scratch her eyes out," Sarah replied, her tone a mix of jest and genuine possessiveness. They headed to the hotel suite Arthur had been renting. It was Sarah's first time there, and the space suddenly felt brighter and more inviting with her presence. How could such a petite woman make everything feel so alive? She was still in her professional suit, so Arthur gently helped her remove her jacket. They sat on the couch, talking and laughing. Arthur offered her a drink, mentioning he only had rum. She smiled and said she'd love something light. He mixed them both a drink, spiced rum with a twist of lime and soda water. She seemed to enjoy it. He leaned in and kissed her gently. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she wore the most dazzling smile he had ever seen. "That was wonderful," she whispered. "Better than I ever imagined in my dreams. I loved it." In the weeks that followed, Arthur and Sarah's connection deepened. They spent countless hours together, sharing their dreams, their pasts, and the experiences that had shaped them. The initial spark that had ignited during their shared hardship blossomed into a profound and comforting warmth. It felt as though they had both been waiting for this moment, for the right person to truly understand them. One sunny afternoon, while strolling through a park filled with the vibrant colors of blooming flowers, Arthur stopped, took Sarah's hand in his, and looked into her eyes. "Sarah," he said, his voice filled with a certainty he hadn't felt in years. "I've never felt more sure about anything in my life. The world may not have given us what we expected, but I believe we've found something even better. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she smiled, squeezing his hand. "Yes, Arthur. Yes, I've never been more sure of anything. I love you, and I want to be with you forever." Their engagement was simple and heartfelt. They didn't need grand gestures or elaborate plans, just each other. Their mutual support and understanding forming the bedrock of their commitment. They began planning a small, intimate wedding. Surrounded by their closest friends and family, Arthur and Sarah exchanged vows in a serene garden, the blooming flowers a vibrant symbol of their newfound love and future together. The ceremony was filled with laughter, tears of joy, and a profound sense of peace that only true love can bring. After the ceremony, they danced under the starlit sky, just the two of them, their past hurts fading into the background, replaced by the bright promise of their future. They had both endured pain and hardship, but now they had found their way back to happiness, side by side. As they left for their honeymoon, their hands clasped tightly, Arthur whispered, "This is just the beginning. We have a lifetime ahead of us, and I'm so grateful to spend it with you." And so, their love story began anew, filled with hope, laughter, and a deep, unbreakable connection. They knew challenges would inevitably arise, but together, they would face them with strength and unwavering love, creating a life brimming with joy, adventures, and endless cherished memories. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.